Hello everyone, my name is AJ, and I haven't come up with a good intro yet. Today, I'm going to be doing what so many of you have been requesting for a very long time. I am finally tackling Hell of a Boss. Hell of a Boss is a spin-off of Has-Been Hotel that is set in the same universe. Ironically, the spin-off came out first, which I think is really funny. I'm going to be writing this as if it is a spin-off to my own Has-Been Hotel AU, the bed and breakfast for former baddies. I've already decided on a name for it. Heck of a Boss. That's what my little sister calls the show. It's funny to me every single time. Hell of a Boss is about a gang of 3 imps and a hellhound that run a business called IMP. They are assassins that are commissioned by sinners to get revenge on anyone who's still alive on Earth. At least that was what it was supposed to be about until it became the Stolas and Blitz show. I have thoughts, but I'm going to save those because don't even get me started. I wanted to start my AAU by redesigning the Cherubim. CHERUB, also known as Cherub, was the 4th episode of Season 1. In this episode, the main gang are tasked with killing an old man in such a way that he for certain ends up in hell, but they have a problem. There is a group of 3 cherubim that do the exact opposite of what they do, which I'm pretty certain is attempting to keep people alive and free of sin. Wackiness occurs, and then it ends with the cherubim accidentally killing the old man for IMP and getting kicked out of heaven for it. The cherubim have appeared one other time as a reoccurring villain, and once an apology tour. I have been wanting to draw these suckers ever since my first Lucifer redesign. Lucifer has been described as having once been a guardian cherub before the fall, and it made me so dang excited. The physical descriptions of cherubim are absolutely wild. They are described as having 4 faces, 4 wings on each face, and 1 leg. It gets better because it says that 1 face is human, 1 is a bull, 1 is a bird, and 1 is a lion. That's a lot going on, and you want me to make this stupid thing animator friendly, and you want me to make 3 of them? No. No, I'm making 1. I understand why Vivzy went the route of making them either cute little animals or just like the baby that they're often depicted as. So, no shade to that, I understand. I decided to combine all 3 cherubim into a singular cherub. We really don't need 3 angels to go and do a job that could be just as easily accomplished by 1. I started by sketching out the general body plan for a stork and then gave it 3 heads. I tried putting the 4th head on its back like I've done with Lucifer, but it didn't look right, so I fused the final face into the back of his main head. The main head will be the human head. On the right we have the lion, on the left we have a lamb that I later turned into the bull, and on the back is the bird. We of course keep the singular leg with the hoof at the bottom. I also added a long curly tail on the back. Birds that evolve in areas with very few predators, like the birds of paradise, often involve more complex sexual selection. Things like flashy colors, complex dances, and other body structures that would be inconvenient, but are pretty. There are no predators or even death in heaven, so while I don't think that the beasts that live there would evolve, I see no reason why they can't start off fabulous. Alas, we have to say goodbye to the undersketch. This is the most pleasant he's going to look for the rest of the video, at least in this form. I have decided that for my universe, I'm not going to give cherubim a fully set body plan. They have to have 1 human face, 1 mammalian predator, 1 mammalian prey animal, and 1 bird, reptile, or amphibian adjacent face, as well as 16 wings present on their body somewhere. So as long as I hit all of those points somewhere in the design, everything will be fine. I started my journey of including all 16 wings by first adding 4 to the head. The 2 up top are easily identifiable as wings, the 2 on the bottom not as much. I made the ones that are where the ears would go really small, so they're completely useless, but they still count. I added only 1 pair of wings each to the smaller heads. I put them on the sides of the lion's head and on the top following the curve of the neck on the bull, which I later changed to just giving him ear wings like I did with the human. For the hair, I knew that I for certain wanted there to be a curl in there. You can see here that I've used St. Peter for reference. I really like St. Peter's design. The only problem with it is the proportions, and also, this is not a Jewish fisherman. So as much as I like it and the personality that comes with it, I cannot use this in BBFFB for Peter's design, so my plan was to recycle it for my cherub. I sketched in his exact hair for all of the heads with hopes that when I added the colors, you would still be able to almost see the regular cherubs in this horrible thing somewhere. I also added bow ties to all of them. For colors, I wanted to make sure that the color I picked would match his virtue. Just like there are 7 deadly sins, there are 7 heavenly virtues that are the exact opposite. I wanted to make the virtues the opposite colors of the sins, but the problem with that is that the inverted rainbow is ugly and doesn't have all the colors of the rainbow. I thought in my brain that the rainbow would just flip upside down when I inverted the colors. It didn't. I also considered keeping them the same color as their respective sins, but I didn't like that either, so I tried Googling the colors of the virtues and found a color-coded version of their symbols. This almost worked. Just like my reference for the sins chart, I wanted to add the names of the 7 embodiments of the virtues in here. I'll be using the 7 named archangels that we have for that. I tried to match the names of each angel to a virtue that I thought would fit them, but I kind of had to just put them in there at random towards the end because a lot of them seem like they have very similar virtues. I did end up switching the colors of diligence and moderation just because it made more sense to me. I also took red out completely out of Heaven's rainbow so we can add in cyan but keep the pink. I thought that orange for diligence would fit our cherub best, with a few pops of blue for moderation or temperance, whatever you want to call it. Colors were extremely easy after that. I went for a mostly monochromatic palette where it's just shades of orange. The only other color in there is the blue that I used for his eye, which I stole from the baby looking cherub. I also stole the royal blue for the line art. When he was all colored in, I decided to take the bow tie and collar away from the main neck. It just looked really weird to me and I didn't like it. 2 bow ties is enough. And then for an hour, I thought I was done, and in truth, I could have stopped here and saved future tweaks for a later video like I did with BBFFB, but there was an issue, and that was that I wasn't happy. I didn't think he had enough visual ties to the cherubim from the episode, so I redid the hair. I kept in the curl, but tried to make the rest of it look like baby man's hair. I like this much better. This thing is still very off-putting, and I really don't like him. I wish my brain would stop imagining his beak opening, because that's just the worst. I also remembered last minute to add his dumb halo. I went for a simple white band like the OG cherubim, one floating above his head, and I put the other 3 around his neck like I do for dog angels. And we're all good now. I still hate him though. Since the heads are all one person, just separate brains, he only needs one name. I kept the name from Baby Man, Cletus. Oh, did you think this was over? No, it's never over. I suffer eternally for that sweet, sweet ad revenue. I mentioned earlier that the cherubim get kicked out of heaven at the end of the episode for incompetence. We're going to have the same thing happen in my version. My idea is that he gets kicked out for letting humans see him without a permit. This is a very serious infraction. Once a human sees definitive proof of heaven, they can't sin anymore or else they will go to hell. Any sin, no matter how small, will guarantee them hell once they have definitive proof that heaven exists. In his efforts to save the soul of one terrible man, he condemned 30 people on accident. And accident or not, that's not okay. I really hate how in the actual show, the dude being killed by a complete accident caused mostly by the imps is enough to get the cherubim kicked out of heaven. I don't think that's cool, and it really frustrates me. Is heaven a place that's over the top strict, even when you're in it, or are you allowed to be terrible but still stay? Make up your mind. Anyway, so I'm gonna have there be an actual good reason for him being kicked out. He doesn't fully fall though. He loses his wings and immortality and will have to live on Earth as a human until he dies. Then he'll be judged as any human soul would be and allowed back in if he passes, but will never be allowed to visit Earth again. And since he also, like the humans he accidentally cursed, since he has definitive proof that and definitive knowledge that heaven exists, he's going to have just as difficult a time as they are in getting into heaven. So the punishment really fits the crime here. Something that was difficult about writing that particular thing, at least in my head for right now, I haven't written anything for real, is that human bodies can only be created by God, so I've made it a rule that fallen angel cases are always overseen by God since it's so rare. The higher-ups can't change an angelic soul into a mortal human soul themselves. They don't have the power to mess with a being's atoms like that. God can. So he is going to physically rearrange Cletus's atoms into a human soul and body. I am going to keep 2 little wing shards on his head anyway, so he has some proof of his angelic origins when he goes to team up with the secret agents that are after IMP. Maybe later on in the writing process, I'll take them off and make him just like a regular human, but for now he'll be hiding them under a little beanie. I'm going to move the placement of this episode. I'm going to have it come just before Mastermind, which at the date of writing this is the most recent Hell of a Boss episode to be released. Heaven is going to be angry beyond belief that anyone from hell is on Earth at all, let alone actively trying to keep people from getting into heaven. Being seen by heaven is the only crime that a lesser hellborn could commit that would necessitate all of the sins being in court to watch him die. And from there we can make more drama. For his outfit, I wanted him to have some serious, shy nerd energy. He didn't grow up on Earth and doesn't fully understand human culture, customs, and most importantly, economy. So joining up with the 2 agents is going to be a necessity for his continued survival. By the way, as of the time of writing this script, I have just discovered that the secret agent organization that's trying to discover the paranormal is called Dorks with a silent H, spelled DHORKS. That's amazing. I love that. Anyway, so I put him in a little sweater with his old bow ties on his shoulders, a dress shirt underneath that isn't tucked in, simple slacks that I eventually made black, and shoes that reference his hoof. The hair I kept exactly the same. The only difference is that I drew it so that the darker part has hatch marks in it to indicate that it was shaved down, which I didn't add to the first form. Maybe I'll fix that later. I don't know. I don't know anything I'm going to do before I do it. I did decide to take away his bright orange hair and made it more of a brownish color instead. I also added an even darker brown into the palette so I'd have another color to work with. Since this design is so simple, I wanted to add extra patterning to the sweater. I wanted it to have that classic vintage diamond pattern on it. I'm sure that particular design has an actual name, but I don't know what it is and I couldn't find it when I looked it up. The problem with the diamond plaid thing is that it's actually really hard to draw. I tried many different ways of drawing it, but I just couldn't get the diamonds to be consistently sized and angled correctly, so I came up with 2 design ideas. One was a simple grid pattern, and the other was 3 vertical stripes with a diamond on the 2 outer stripes, and a horizontal stripe going through the diamonds. I had my Discord vote on it, and the double diamond one was picked. Editing AJ here. Never mind. The Discord vote flipped while I was asleep. The grid returns, but it'll be at the end because I finished this before I went to bed. After that, I drew a version of his head with his hat on. I got the shape of it right on the second try. I don't know why I was struggling so bad in the first one. I made it just a simple loose black beanie with a white brim and 2 humps on the top where the tips of his wing shards are poking in just a little bit. I also put a light brown diamond on the side of it for some extra detail. Now, I already mentioned that he's all one person. There aren't separate personalities, but I'm gonna elaborate a little bit more on that. You know how when people have ADHD and they've got way too many thoughts in their head all at once? It's kind of like that, except it's spread out amongst 3 or 4 separate brains so that they can more easily manage all the thoughts that are happening. So when all of the heads get mashed together into one brain, poor Cletus is going to all of a sudden only have one brain to think with, and that's going to be a pretty big adjustment for him. Also, congratulations everyone, you get to see how I draw noses for the first time. Well, at least most of you. I've only drawn human noses twice on here. I've come pretty close with Sarah, but I was treating that more as a facial pattern than a nose. The only time I've ever drawn humans on YouTube, it was for a Genshin video that I completely forgot about until I wrote the script. After doing that video, there was this really weird guy that kept requesting I do a video where I switch the styles of Hollow Knight and Genshin, which would be probably a really good video to make, but he kept on pestering me about it, and it got really weird and very parasocial in a way that made me really uncomfortable. In case it's not clear to anyone, we're not friends. I don't know you, so I won't be making that video purely out of principle. Tangent over. Maybe I'll cut this from the video. This is a stupid tangent. Anyway, that's all I've got for this redesign. Will I be completely rewriting the show like I'm doing with BBFFB? No. Screw that noise. I don't wanna. Look at this fan art. If you want to send me fan art, join my Discord. Also support me on Patreon, and I take commissions. A special thank you to my financial supporters, JRDS, Mercer Scott Holt, Stephen Drake, J Draws, and Silent Savvy. Y'all are the greatest. I'll see you all next week in a super cool video about something that's probably going to hurt my brain and maybe my hand. Bye!